And so 88 is when you made your switch to bass drum?
Reluctantly, yes.
Oh, really?
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we talked about we got the controversial year '87 out of the way. Let's talk about something less controversial. All right, '88. Here, let's talk about '88.
So why reluctantly?
Well, because I watched uh, the drum line get their asses kicked every
Oh,
day.
sure.
I'm in the civil line, like, and again, I was in the civil line with four vets. I was the only rookie. I like to think that I had my stuff together. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, we really didn't get talked to a lot. And so when we would have rehearsals, we would rehearse with the drum line, but most of the time we were, under a tree.
Sure.
we were taking walks, to like see if there's a 7-Eleven around.
7-Eleven, yeah. Oh, I've heard stories about cymbal lines, yeah.
Or we were like, raid other people's bags to see if they had any candy or food or anything.
That's awesome.
Oh, that was you guys?
Yeah, that was us. So when 88 came along, I'm like, shoot, I can hang out in the cymbal line. Like, yeah, I know how to play bass drum, and I don't know, I didn't tell you this, but during the summer in '87, John Corley, I would drum with him during like water breaks.
Mm-hmm.
I would cack around on Michael Jones's tenors and stuff like that. Every now and again, I would cack around on a snare drum or something. But like Corley was kind of grooming me, unbeknownst to me. You know
Sure.
what I mean? And but fast forward to the winter to prepare for '88. I didn't want any parts of getting my ass kicked, So I'm like, listen, I can just chill here in the cymbal line, win championships,
Yep.
And not get beat up and do push-ups and stuff like that. So I'm hanging out in the cymbal room with the rest of the guys and girls, and all of a sudden here comes Steve and here comes Hannum. And they pulled me out of the cymbal room. And they're like,
come with us.
They're like, listen, because I for some reason we didn't have a good pool of candidates for bass drum in '88.
Okay.
For some reason, I don't know why, but they came into the room, pulled me out of the room, and they're like, we know you can play bass drum. we're gonna need you to play bass drum.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, well, I don't want to play bass drum. And they're like, well, we're going to need you to play bass drum. So we need you to think about it. Seriously, think about it. And so I went back in the cymbal room, and they're like, oh, what was that all about? I was like, they want me to play bass drum, but I'm not freaking playing that bass. They're like, oh, okay. So I think later on that camp, they came back in the room, pulled me out of the room, and had the same conversation with me.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh, did you think about it? And I was like, yeah, I'm playing cymbals. And so Hannum had this, the Hannum face on, and he basically gave me an ultimatum. He said, listen, he said, either you play this bass drum or you don't play anything for the Garfield Cadets.
Wow.
And so I'm sitting there, at what I guess I was 15 at that time, 15 somewhere
Mm-hmm.
in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there like, are you serious? He's like, yeah, so you need to think about it. So I go back in the friggin' cymbal room, pouting, like on the verge of tears. And I'm like, I don't want to play, I don't want to play. So they come back and they get me, and they pull me out of the room, and they escort me down to the bass room. And I mean, the rest of camp, man, I was literally had tears in my eyes. I did not want to play that thing.
Wow, because you knew you were gonna get your ass kicked.
That is, I'm gonna
Oh.
I'm gonna go on record as saying that is not the origin story that I was expecting.
No, me
for,
neither.
for
Like,
Jerede and his
yeah.
bass drumming career.
I would totally not what I expected at all. Yeah, but that's cool to hear. I mean,
Yeah, I didn't want to play it. And it's funny. I was trying to surprise you guys. I was trying to get Corley on,
Oh,
that would
nice.
have been cool. Yeah.
but he's out with family right now. So
Sure.
he
Oh,
tried to get out of it, but he couldn't. But Corley, I owe a lot to, not only my, my I guess tutelage from, Bob Craig and all my guys from the Warriors and CMC and the New York Lancers, but Corley basically, I basically lived with him almost every weekend,
Mm-hmm.
and all we did was drum. He had an electric drum set, so I would take one pad, and he would take the other, and we would drive. I mean, until the wee hours of the morning. We would drive his mother freaking nuts to a point she would like curse us out and tell us to stop.
yeah. Yeah.
And but
I was gonna say, yeah, John's one of those names too. I mean, when I think of cadets and bass drum, and there's three names for me. That's you, and then John Corley, and then Chris Butler is the third one that I always,
Yeah.
at Holy Bass. It's like those are the guys that really got this thing going and got us to kind of where we are now. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, well, Corley is the Jedi master. He basically took the technique to another level, and then he basically taught me that new, I guess, hybrid, way of approaching the bass drum.
Can you very simply sort of give us a general, like, what exactly was that? What exactly was that technique that was so iconic for that time?
Can't tell you, it's a secret.
The secret's in the sauce. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a special sauce, man. No, it's hard to explain. It's
Was there like a philosophy behind it?
Yeah, like definitely like rhythmic interpretation, and definitely playing into the drum.
Mm-hmm.
See, back, obviously, I think you guys know, back then bass drums was just an accompaniment. You know what
Yep.
I mean?
Yes.
You have 8 notes, and every now and again you would get really jazzy and you'd have like a run. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the runs were rare. And
Right.
I kind of wanted to ask you on the same thing. We'll get back on technique, but I wanted to ask you, like, Suncoast Sound 85, 86. I thought those bass lines were really the birth of bass. I don't know if that makes sense, because they had that big feature in 85,
Yes,
and then 86 kind of took it to that next level with just runs.
That was like a 12 measure bass feature. That
Yes,
freaking thing.
they call it the
And
bass
they were like-
cadenza. Yes,
like
Yep.
kneeling all into it. You know what I mean?
yeah, with
That
the
was-
blackjack mallets. Yeah, and gloves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the gloves too.
Yeah.
They basically took it up a notch there. But 87, 86 with Scott and Skip Cassidy, they were brothers on 86 on the bass line. And then Scott went to tenors in 87, but the bass line in 87, they played a little bit more notes. But then 88 was kind of the beginning of that evolution. I remember one time, I think Unks wanted me to play like a flam drag or something on bass 1.
Right.
And I just looked at him like he was crazy. I was like, what? He's like, oh, you can't play that? And I was like, I don't think I've ever played it on a bass drum. I was like, but I tried. So I tried. I finally was able to squeak it out. You know what I mean? But 89 was definitely
a game changer.
The big push. We needed. I don't know if you guys ever heard of this one, but Willie Higgins, some way somehow was able to get all the parts onto like a drum track or some kind of drum machine.
Mm-hmm.
So we can figure out or know the correct interpretation of how to play.
This was back then?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Some way somehow he was able to do that. And I know he definitely did it for the snares and the tenors, because it was like kind of like a Buddy Rich kind of approach, you know what I mean, with some of that stuff.
Right.
And so I remember when the first time we saw a Plummet Attack in the bass line, we looked at it like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, yeah, because
like we've never seen that many notes.
Yeah,
on a piece of paper before.
And for people that are listening right now that don't know what Plummet Attack is, that's pretty much the feature section of the '89 show.
Mm-hmm.
But real quick, we talked about earlier. We reached out to a few people to get some input or some thoughts on stuff to ask you. And one of the people we talked to, or at least I messaged, was Pete Sapadin, who marched with you in '91, and he wanted me pretty much. When I asked him to bring up some stuff, he says that in '88 that he'd finished VK's final performance and he was cruising the lot to check some stuff out check some warm-ups up before retreat, and he was walking and he heard a deep, clean as hell triplet diddle happening, and he says he'd never heard that sound. It was cleaner than the snares at VK by 1,000%, by 1,000 times. So he walked till he could find the sound, and it was a Cadets bass line, crabbing forward, playing the crap out of triplet diddle. He said it was so upsetting. LOL. The other thing he says he remembers was seeing you wailing on your drum so high and getting such a fat, even sound on your diddles, which is what you were talking about, the technique of playing through the drum. Yeah. And I always tell people that too. You know, I think of bass drum and like pulling the sound out of a drum. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you kind of think of it the same way. As like you try to go for the second note of the diddle when you're playing rolls and stuff like that. But, you know, and I asked him, like, something to ask you that he wanted to hear about. And he was talking about, he wants to hear about the technique and like how we were talking about playing through the drum. Can you give us a little bit more insight on Cadets bass technique? It's wrist turn correct, more than it is wrist break?
Right. So like I think Santa Clara they do like the
wrist break, like
the wrist break with the Cadets. It's kind of like you keep your forearm horizontal to the ground, mm-hmm. and it's more of this. Yeah. So usually I like to say like if you're the way I teach is like if you're smoking a cigarette and you turn your hand down like this,
right?
And you just keep going like this.
Yes.
Do it like this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Kind of like turning a doorknob too, correct?
That's exactly what I was getting ready to say.
Yes.
You kind of like turning a doorknob, but then you also want to bring it out this way. So if this is the bass drum head, you want to bring it out like this.
Sure.
Yeah.
But then you incorporate a little bit of what I call the funky chicken. So you do all that at the same time, but what you do is you send the velocity into the head.
Yes.
And then you use the rebound when it bounces, when the velocity goes into the head, you use the rebound to come out, and you control that rebound with your fingers.
Yes.
Right.
I always thought a good exercise for that technique, for me anyways, learning it, because we talked earlier about Sajjad, who'd marched cadets in '92. He came home on the bus with us in '92, and we had like 3 or 4 days of him just breaking that technique down to me, because I was like a brand new bass drummer. So we did the forearm parallel to the ground, turning the doorknob, but we played a lot of double beat, and that was like, to me, the best thing for playing bass, because you go for that second beat, but you get that snap in too as you're playing. I don't know if that makes sense. That
no,
that
you're
double
right.
beat snap. Yeah.
And so, I go back, like I'm always around the cadets. I go back every year for moving. So I usually do like a week or a week and a half. And so I spend time with the baseline, and I kind of help out, and I kind of teach them the technique. I kind of teach them, quality of sound, rhythmic interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, bingo. Quality of sound. I love that. Yeah. Go ahead.
And then also the little secrets that I've learned with my time in the New York Lancers is just old fashioned stuff, man. Like everybody uses these what is it, the realistic drum pads, or those real pads, whatever the thing is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, dude, I even tell my son, he's actually getting ready to come home from football. He's in his high school band snare line. But I tell the kids in movings at the cadets in the baseline, put those pads away and get your pillow.
The pillow, yes.
Or get your mattress. Because and this is one of the things that Steve also mentioned too. You develop the Popeye
arms, exactly.
So,
I used that, here on the West Coast, our bass tech was a big fan of cadets, so he would always try to emulate that style, the wrist turn, and we played with that. And I'm a big proponent of that style. And same thing, I would just get on a pillow and I would play double beat, and I would try to achieve almost like accenting that second note of the diddle. And I felt for me that's what helped me play fat rolls, and like, I don't know if that makes sense. I prided myself on heights, on my goal was to touch the mallet heads underneath the drum with each other. As ridiculous as that'll never happen, but I wanted to play with good heights, good quality of sound.
But the key too, and I tell my son this, and every now and again I'll help teach, his band's drum line. The key to it too is anybody can play anything fast. Can you play it slow with the correct rhythmic interpretation and the correct spacing?
Yes.
So that's the one thing that especially with working with Corley, we broke everything down to its minute properties, and I bring that same teaching to wherever I go right now.
So was 88 the year pretty much when the cadets bass technique was really defined, or was it 89?
It started evolving more, like in 88.
Yeah.
Started evolving more. So we kept the same basic, horizontal forearm, but all the other stuff, it just started evolving. And then in 89, it evolved more.
Yeah, you guys took it to a ridiculous level in 89 for sure.
Because it's just like, it's just like today's bass drumming. It evolves. Everything evolves. You know what I mean? The technique, especially what they play now.
Yeah.
Like some of the stuff, I don't even know what the hell they call it. You know what I mean?
It's
like
crazy stuff.
Yeah, what, like something I heard is called lightning or something like that.
Lasers, probably lasers and mega lasers.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
I don't know what it is, but the technique it has to evolve with what they're trying to attempt.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I salute them, for what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
They're playing all kinds of crazy stuff, like even when I go to the cadets, and I hear and see what they play. Like they play like inner beats within each other and stuff. And I'm just like, okay, I don't know how you're doing it, but you need to open it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why.
Sure. Yeah.
So by the time 89 rolled around, that was your third year in the Corps. Were you no longer the wide-eyed young Jerede? Were you starting to become like talking to other people about what it means to be a cadet, what it means to be a cadet bass drummer?
I wasn't talking. I was more so. I tried to, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, like kind of lead by example. I guess.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Corley was the base captain, so I really didn't say much. He did all the talking.
Yeah.
And I just did my job. You know what I mean?
So 88, you guys tied for high percussion with Vanguard. Is that correct?
I have no idea.
You have no idea. I want to say you guys tied, or it was close, but
I think we won drums, prelims, and I think I don't think we won drums that last night.
No,
which was a big stink, I think.
Yeah. I thought you guys had tied in because they had the higher GE score or something like that. That the trophy went to Vanguard. I could be wrong.
88 was just shady. There was a lot of shady
There's a
stuff
lot of
on
we're gonna have a whole episode on 80, 87, 88, and 89. Just finals one of these days soon. Yeah.
Was the 89 different? Because didn't Ong step into a bigger role?
Yes, which leads me to a another question from someone else we spoke with. Hold on, let me pull it up here. So I reached out to Matt Power.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And,
Bullet Head.
Yeah, Bullet Head drums, correct. And, 88 was Hannum.
Mm-hmm.
And so Hannum leaves in 88, and Onks comes in 89. And, his question was to ask about the diversity and the difference between Hannum's writing and Onk's writing. And also you being thrown in the spotlight with the role heard around the world in Plummet Attack. Yeah. So go ahead. Let's break down, what you think of the difference, the diversity between Hannum and Ongst.
Yeah, it was definitely a difference. I think again that was more of an evolution too, with the style of writing, because I think 89 was the beginning of that next jump to just everybody's just playing all kinds of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So 88 again. It was my first year on bass, and so you got to remember my mindset coming from the cymbal line into basses. It was my first year. I didn't want to get yelled at. I didn't want to get talked to. As a matter of fact, if you go to the video, I'm actually playing cheaters for the entire core. And I was just like, okay, wait a second. You want me to play cheaters? Are you sure you want me to play cheaters? I'm like, why can't you just give the cheaters the Corley?
Right.
I didn't want to play the cheaters.
Oh yeah.
Because I didn't want to get yelled at if I, for whatever reason, the drum major and I weren't on the same page. You know what I mean? But I played the cheaters, and I guess over time that kind of built my confidence, I guess. But one of my old instructors in the Lancers told me that it looks like the bass drum is wearing me because that's how small and skinny I was.
Yeah.
But yes, it was definitely the music that we played and the writing that we played was very intricate. It was very musical. 89, I think Unks, that was his first year as caption head.
Mm-hmm.
I think he definitely wanted to come out and make a statement, which he obviously did.
Obviously, yes.
And I think the entire line played, especially in the bass line, played more notes than I think anybody's ever even thought about playing.
I had made a meme. And I'd made a meme a little about a month ago or so, and it was like an empty ink pen, and I said the meme was, "This is the pen that Tom Ongst used to write the 1989, or the amount of ink left Tom Ongst had after writing the 89 book." And it was like an empty ballpoint pen, and he even got a laugh out of that when he saw it posted. So
which like I said, when the first time we saw Plummet Attack, we were just like, "What the hell is this? Like, do you want us to play this?" And the bass line, we would be up like during the wintertime learning Plummet Attack. Like you look at it now, like I'm sure like the new generation, they look at Plummet Attack, they would look at it and go, okay, this is easy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But back then it was difficult.
It was that was groundbreaking.
And it's funny because right. And we just I think I sent you videos of the HB alumni performance thing,
Yes.
Performance ensemble that we did over the summer, and so we played Plummet Attack,
Right.
and I actually had a chance to play Corley's part, and I didn't realize how difficult his part was at the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I played one,
Yeah.
but for back then it was pretty difficult. So we would be up in winter camps. The rest of the corps is like sleep. The bass line would be up, taking Plummet Attack this slow until like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean?
Just trying to work it all out.
Trying to get it, and just trying to work that first like section of Plummet Attack, down.
So in '89, you played top. Corley was 2. Was Chris Butler 3?
Yeah, Chris's first year was on 3.
Okay.
So Chris grew into his bass drum too, into bass drum. Corley and Dave McCarthy used to get on Chris quite a bit.
Yeah. So who played 4? Who was 4 and 5 that year?
So it was Dave McCarthy on 4,
Uh-huh.
and then Pat McLean was on number 5.
Okay.
So Pat came from the Summer line in '88.
Okay.
Yeah, to play 5 in '89. So
yeah, so you guys go into '89, and did you even realize the stuff you were playing was like had never been attempted before, ever on bass, or were you just okay? These are our parts. Let's just play them.
Well, we knew that, like, especially when we were learning, we were like, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we kind of suspected, like, yeah, no one else on a bass drum, no one else has ever done this before.
Yeah.
And then that kind of just wore off. So we had to perfect it. We had to play it because we knew it wasn't going anywhere. You know what I mean? Because Unks was like, "Yeah, this is your part, so you're gonna play this. I'm not taking it out.
Yeah.
You're gonna."
And it looks like a tenor part, probably.
Right. And that's a whole nother story too. Once we get further in the years, but yeah, we and I think after a while, just like with anything, that's innovative or that someone or people don't have, you have it, you take pride in that. You know what I mean? You take ownership and you take pride that we're doing something that no one's ever done before, and we're doing it pretty well.
Yeah, like for me, that '89, my exposure to it was, again, we talk about riding home from '92 finals with Sajad. He busts out this bootleg cassette tape of like finals night warm-ups, and he's out here, listen to this. So I put it in, and there's like short, long double beat, and you guys are just playing some ridiculous stuff in the warm-ups, and then here comes the book, and I'm like, holy heck! I mean, it would just blew my mind, and it made me want to learn to play at that level.
So then what I started doing, and Corley started doing it too. Well, Corley actually always did it. He would in '87 he would play with the snare line. He would play snare parts with the snare line.
Okay.
And so in '88, I would play what I was comfortable and confident in playing. You know what I mean? But in '89, I started playing, snare parts with like Lee Bettis, Willie Higgins, Scott Clark, Scott Blanford. I would play the snare parts on the bass drum. Like Plummet Attack. I would play Plummet Attack on the bass drum during like warm-ups, or even at practice. I would play it. What I mean? And then what we started doing in warm-ups was we would, like, the bass line, we would like kind of arc up and like have like Lee Bettis, playing with us, or we would have like, Scott or maybe Willie play with us and stuff like that. But I think that kind of elevated things too, I think, because they were like, okay, yeah, you can play snare. Like I always could play it, but I just wasn't. I don't know. I guess when I was younger, I wasn't as confident as I was. You know what I mean?
By the time '89 hit, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So when '89 came, you know, I already had the 1 year under my belt, the reluctant year under my belt, and then when '89 came, like I said, Corley and I, we were always together. Like he would literally pick me up from school on a Friday, and we would go to his house or we would go to camp,
Mm-hmm.
and we would practice every weekend. So I was never home, but you know, I would play snare parts on bass drum.
Yeah.
You know,
Was that your iconic part in Plummet Attack? Was that written, or was that something that had got added because you were playing along with the snares? The hurt, the hurt. The...
no, it was written from the wintertime.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, it was written from the wintertime. I never thought, to be honest with you, I never thought that you know, people would go crazy over it. You know,
Oh
what I
man,
mean?
we still hype that. We still hype that part. Yeah.
You know, it's funny because I've talked about this before, but the way people digested drum corps back then was still primarily audio, right? So iconic moments that stuck out tended to be these moments that really like that you could just hear throughout the stadium. You know, it's almost like the part was built to be played and heard using the stadium, no electronics or anything like that. And there's just a handful of those that you can sort of mark when you think back on the 80s. And '89, that part just happened to be like, yes. When you think of, when you, and it's, and it sticks with you because there's only a handful of those kinds of moments for corps, you know?
Yeah. So because obviously I was on the field and I played it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can actually, like, if you're in the stands, you can actually hear it in the stands.
Oh yeah. And what was interesting, I actually watched a bunch of, you know, obviously like cadets videos recently to prepare for this. And I had forgotten, you know, like when you listen to drum corps now versus back then, about like using the stadium. And even there were like some, especially in that book, it really felt like, I mean, maybe not purposely, but the drum parts used the resonance of the stadium, you know?
Oh yeah.
Like you could really feel like, I mean, especially like some of the tenor parts and stuff like that, the ones that would stick out when everything else sort of cut out. There was an echo and a resonance and a tone that really resonated throughout. So yeah, I mean, it's like those kinds of things burn themselves into your ears, you know, because we've said it many times. We've wore out those tapes or those CDs, you know, just listening to that stuff over and over again.
And like you were saying earlier, too, I was going to say that quality of sound you got out of that roll after the hurt, it was, and then it was like a decrescendo, and it's just beautiful. Yeah.
So then,
I just again, like you can ask anybody that knows me, you know, people even back then, you know, people would come up to me and like, oh, like I remember coming off the field one time, getting on the bus and you changing, and then people were like, hey, Jerede, somebody wants your autograph. Yeah. It's like, what? Yeah. What are you talking about? You want my autograph? That happened a lot, like, you know, 89 and then, you know, 90 and stuff like that. And I'm just like, me? You know what I mean? You know? Yeah. And like people used to always, especially after 89, people, and even to this, well, more so back then too, like people like say to me, oh, you're the best bass drummer ever. And I'm just like, no, I'm not. You know what I mean? I'm like, and I always would say, you know, there's always someone out there that's way better than I am. You know what I mean?
Sure, but do you recognize that regardless of whether you feel like you were that guy, being that guy for people had a real impact on future generations?
I guess I appreciate that. Like I said in the beginning of this whole thing, um, I've been blessed, man. I've been blessed. If it wasn't for Unks writing it,
Sure.
I probably wouldn't be in that position. If I'm just blessed. I'm humbled. Uh, I'm just a kid from the Bronx that's had a unbelievably successful career in drum corps. I I was in a Colado ad. you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow. You know what I mean? Um, and be honest with you, like how many years ago was that? And to still be like, I'm sure everyone doesn't know who I am, you know what I mean, which is fine. I'm good with that. But like to still be like even that much relevant still, you know what I
Sure.
mean?
Yeah.
I aged out in '93,
Mm-hmm.
so I can't complain, man. Life's been very, very good to me.
Well, I
And
mean, and it's interesting because um, there was more than that. There was 87, obviously, like the perfect drum score. There was that moment in 89. And then, and we'll get to it, but Marching Star 93, which is something that we'll get to. Um, but those things are still things that are relevant today, things that are inspirational for a lot of people today. Um, in 90,
yeah,
you jumped to bass two.
yeah. So I became the bass captain.
There you go.
They put me in charge of people. Yeah, so '90 was pretty cool. So we had I guess kind of like almost a dynasty in the bass line. So we had in '88 we had four guys. Well, we had Corley, we had myself, Corley, uh, Dave McCarthy, and then in '89 we had myself, Corley, Chris Butler, Dave McCarthy, and Pat. And then '90 we had the same four guys except for Corley.
Mm-hmm.
And then in '91 the same thing. So we had a little bit of a dynasty going on. We called it a dynasty. So '90 came along, and it was more or less the same. We without Corley, obviously, but we had some parts. We had some roles everywhere, split roles. You name it, we had it, and we ran with it, man. We played, I guess the good old Garfield favorites, which is Leonard Bernstein, Mass, and all that other stuff, and Candide. So that was pretty cool to play too, because it was like a homage to cadets of the years past. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
And
Chris Butler moved up to 1 in '90, right?
yeah, so Chris moved from 3 to 1, and he made a drastic improvement from '89 to '90. Like leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
And so 90 was my first year as bass captain, and I don't know if the guys liked it. I was still the youngest. Well, I think Chris and I were the same age, but I was the youngest, but I had more seniority out of everybody. So I think they were kind of reluctant a little bit that I was the bass captain. So we had to have I guess a meeting of the minds, and everything worked out. I kind of delegated responsibilities to some of the guys, like Dave McCarthy was like in charge of the drill. Pat was in charge of Pat moved to 3 in '90, so he moved from 5 to 3. So he was in charge of the music, and then I was pretty much in charge of like tapping off and making sure, the rhythms were right and what we were playing was right. You know what I mean? And then we had a rookie on 5. His name was Craig Weaver, who marched the later half of the season. I don't know if anyone knew this, but the later half of the season, if you saw the cadets, we pretty much marched 4 bass drums.
Yeah.
For the second half of the season, because Craig developed a hairline fracture in his hip.
I didn't know that. At finals, you guys only marched 4?
No, so we marched 5 only in the big shows though.
Oh, okay.
All the regular shows we marched 4.
Wow. So did you guys learn 2 separate books?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
actually, I shouldn't say we learned 2 separate books. So McCarthy on 4 wound up picking up most of Craig's parts.
Oh, okay.
And whatever McCarthy couldn't pick up, then Pat would pick up.
Yeah.
But McCarthy picked up the majority of the parts from Craig.
That's cool.
And then the same thing happened in '91 with Tommy Anderson.
I didn't know that.
He fell and severely strained his back. So we wind up marching 4 bass drums for most, like pretty much half of the season, and then only the big shows he would come out.
Wow. That's crazy. The things you learn, I did not know that. In 90, did you guys take off your drums for the ballad, or was that just like the snares?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We took off. We all took our drums off for the ballad. I was a dancer, and then some people were panel holders.
Yeah.
So, but I was a dancer, and I had a dance partner. Her name was Nicole Bain, and I don't know why they connected us together, because she was taller than I was, and I had to pick her up.
But I want to say that was kind of a big deal back then, is taking the drums off and going out there and dancing with the color guard.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure, absolutely.
Were you guys really receptive to that when it happened, or did you guys? Was there any pushback?
At first, we didn't know what the hell was going on at first.
Yeah.
And then they're like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna dance." And we're like, "What?" So, but we just ran with it.
That's cool.
So
well,
I thought it was pretty cool.
It obviously worked out in the end. I mean, you guys won everything.
We won drums too that year.
Yeah. I remember that line because it was huge. It was like 10 snares or something like that, and that was my rookie year on tour. So seeing you guys like live for the first time was really inspiring. Were you still in high school at this point, or had you graduated?
No, so 90 I was in college. I think that was my freshman year in college.
Okay.
I think it was my freshman year, or was it my sophomore year? I don't know. One of those. Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember, like, for me, my only experience with 90 is watching the videos and the audios, and I always just remember the part where the concert snare's playing, and then the whole battery comes in with the real fast buzz, and that.
I love that year.
Yeah,
I love that year. One of the reasons why I love that year was because we played like some of the shows from years past.
Yeah, right. Candide is definitely like one of my favorites. Yeah.
Tonight was from '84, and that was the year that I wanted to march in '84. And then we played. We did Gallup, and back then that was groundbreaking too, in terms of drills. I don't know if you ever paid attention to it, and I didn't realize it because when you're in it, you don't really get to see everything that's going on.
Right.
But if you look at, I guess towards the end of Gallup, there's like pass-throughs galore. Like everybody's passing through everybody. The bass line, we even did several pass-throughs, and even in the transition from Gallup into the Appalachian Spring and into Tonight, we were right on the front sideline. We're doing like a freaking pass-through with the color guard too.
Yeah.
And so that was crazy. And then we're marching fast, and everything's flying all over the place, and we're flying past everybody else, So I thought that was pretty cool. It was just fun. that year.
Yeah.
It was fun.
So then after 90, you get to 91. And in 91, you guys actually had a lot of Blue Devils show up, at least to some camps or rehearsals, and a couple of them stayed. What was that like, seeing the West Coast guys come out here to the East Coast? Was that like a big deal for you guys, or were you like tripping out? Or can you talk about that a little bit?
I'll speak for myself. I was like, okay, what the hell is really going on?
Yep.
Because, I guess my New York senses kicked in. What are they trying to sabotage us or what? And I was very surprised that they came out, because I was just like, okay, I don't know. Again, it must have been like the New York in me. Why are you coming from the Blue Devils and you're coming here? You know what I mean? We're supposed to be enemies,
Yeah, and little did you know that there some big changes going on at Blue Devils. What got those guys over there?
Oh, I to this day, this is like the first time I'm hearing.
Oh,
that,
really? Yeah. No, there was
like,
staff change, and
yeah,
guys
so
wanted to try something different.
Like even when they were there, they never divulged that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I remember we used to get into little debates on the bus because they would like question like certain traditions and stuff like that.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
I bet.
Like
so
what?
Like I don't even know. I don't know. Like rolling up the your pants leg, little things like that. And like a lot of stuff that you do, and I'm sure you guys march places, and like there's like little dumb traditions that you do at those places. You don't freaking really know why you do it. You just do it because that's what they did before.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta make sure it gets passed down to the next generation. You know what I mean? So they used to always, I forget like some of the stuff, but they used to always question, well, why do we have to do it?
Yeah.
I'm just shut the heck up and just do it.
I'm sure, it's funny, like I'm sure part of that was probably just them tripping out that those, little traditions existed,
Yeah, maybe.
And like, Pete had always said one of the reasons why he wanted to go to cadets, because he really felt like that was the one place he could go to that was totally disconnected from anything that he had learned before. Like if he had gone other places, there was like a teaching tree that would extend to those places. But if he went to cadets, it would literally be learning something new, and those little traditions and all that stuff is part of that.
Right. You're absolutely right. And I can kind of see where he's coming from with that too, with going to Star, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And, you get a sense of how another corps does things, you know what I mean?
Correct, yeah.
So I can totally relate to that, but 91 was a hard year. I still, obviously we still love the corps. We still fought to the bitter end.
Mm-hmm.
It's just we had a very difficult show.
That's what I've heard. I've heard like a lot of the listening points, especially like the beginning of the opener. When the basses come in, they had to come in like a whole half tempo earlier because the listening points was just crazy because you guys are set up in the backfield and yeah.
I tell everybody, anybody that listens to me, like 89 was a great bass line. Like all pretty much most of the years that I marched, the cadets bass line was phenomenal. But I tell everybody that 91, that bass line was phenomenal. And it wasn't necessarily, because we played a lot of parts and because we also stole a lot of parts. I shouldn't say stole. Well, we stole a lot of parts and we were given a lot of parts because the tenor line and the snare line would get hosed a lot. And we had, 4, vets in the bass line. But because that is exactly what you're saying, from an ensemble standpoint, that show was all over the place, because like you said, you had, bass drummers or the drum line would be over here and we're supposed to be playing with, a horn section that's like way in the end zone over there somewhere, you know what I mean? And then the tempos were like doing this within phrases, it was very, 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 very difficult. I remember one time, I think it was like maybe a week or two before finals, and Klesh, well, we were doing ensemble, and Klesh and Unks were up on the top, and there was some phrase that was like off, and they said, "Oh, bass drums, you guys are slow." And I looked at them and I said, "No, we're not slow." So Clutch comes down from the box, and he stands behind us, and we redid the whole phrase, and he goes, "Wow, I don't know how the hell you guys just played that and you guys were still together." He's like, "Because the tempo is all over the place."
Yep.
And I said, "Exactly." I said, so that's why I say that bass line had to have been one of the best bass lines that I've marched in, is because we had to do this all day long,
right,
every day, and make it seem seamless. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And play with sack and play with good quality of sound and rhythmic interpretation while the tempo is doing this.
Yeah. Now, the 91 line, was there a lot of age outs that year? Because it seems like in 92 the cadet line was pretty young. Is that a correct statement, or no? Am I wrong?
Well, I didn't march 92.
No, I know you didn't. I know you didn't, but I'm just was wondering about 91, if there was a lot of age outs in that line.
So yeah, there were some. Yeah, it was so 891 specifically in the bass line, that was the end of the dynasty, and we kind of all knew. Number one, Pat aged out, McCarthy aged out, and I knew I wasn't coming back because I had to do an internship with school.
Oh, okay.
And
I'd always wondered about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I told everybody, what my intention was, and then the tenor line, we had Jordan Hockey was in the tenor line. So get this, Jordan Hockey marched in 87 in the tenor line, and he didn't come back until 91.
Until 91.
Wow, that's a long time to take off.
Yeah, exactly. So he freaking aged out in 91 in the tenor line. So then we also had Dave Gelch, who aged out in the tenor line.
And Vargo.
And then, Vargo went to BD, I think.
Yeah, in 91 he was in Cadets. In 92 he went to Blue Devils. Yeah.
Yeah. So he went to BD, and then Shane, I think, aged out in 91 too. And then the snare line, I think we started off with 10 snare, and I don't know how many we ended up with, but we had several age outs in there. So when 92 came, it was almost like starting from scratch almost,
Sure.